characteristics, except with children's issues related to mental development. Okay, so the psychologists have come out with a specific development stating that it is predictable, right? After observation, they have described and explained, and they have come to a conclusion, say that development happens in this manner. And there were different stages of development and how it is in a very systematic way explained, and it becomes predictable because they have observed the common traits and characteristics, right? Except what happens for some children, there is a delayed development, right? The child that is supposed to walk at a certain time, or the child that's supposed to read at a particular time or speak at a particular time doesn't do it, and in the process, the development are delayed, right? So except for this, the other ones are predictable, right? These are exceptions because of mental retardations and because of developmental delays, right? Another principle is the principle of direction. That refers to the development the way a child exercises the control of muscles and limbs from the head to the foot and from the center to the periphery. From the head to the foot, it is called a cephalocaudal, and from the center to the periphery, proximodistal development, right? An important principle of development is also the orderly sequence, a pattern in a disorderly uniform pattern, right? So orderly sequence means the child that is born suddenly will not get up and walk. The child will start first ensuring that the neck is stable, right? The child learns to roll over, turn over, crawl in the 4th month, right? And another child maybe do it in the 5th, whatever. But there is a sequence of the order in the development. And the last stage of the development principle is that it has potential hazard. Now, what are the hazards? Could come because of environment. It can originate affecting physical, psychological, and social adjustment of poorly adjusted immature child. Okay, so these are the 12 principles of development that we need to keep in mind and we need to be aware of. Okay, now what are the stages of human lifespan? In the human lifespan, there are major developments, right? Now we divide those major developments into prenatal. Now what is prenatal? Prenatal is 9 months, right? Biologically, 280 days after conception, right? That is the first stage, the germinal period. Conception to implantation. That occurs when the sperm penetrates the wall of the ripened ovum, forming a zygote. In 18 to 14 days, the zygote gets firmly attached to the wall of the mother's uterus. This is called implantation, which ends in the germinal period. Okay, so this is the first prenatal period from 0 to 9 months, which is 280 days. Biologically, it is 266 days. Second phase of development is called the prenatal development. What is prenatal development? A period of embryo that lasts from the beginning to the 3rd week to the end of the 8th week. So what happens at this time? All the major organs are formed and the heart begins to beat. The 3rd phase of development. The 3rd stage of development is the period of fetus that lasts from 3rd month until the baby is born. The major organ system begins to function and the growth of the organism is quite rapid. Okay. So in the 3rd stage, the growth of the baby is happening. The period develops and it lasts from 3rd month until the 9th month. That is till the baby is born. Okay. So this all comes under the prenatal period, which has the 3 phases in that. The second stages of development comes the infancy. What is infancy? Infancy begins from birth to the age of 2. Now what happens right from the time a baby is born till the age of 2? A lot of things we observe and we notice. The breathing, the suckling, the baby learns to suckle, the breast of the mother to drink milk, swallow, right? The baby learns to discharge, like bodily waste. The baby learns to go for toilet, and it decides the waste material. Okay, all this. Now comes the third stage, that is the early childhood, which is from 2 to 6 years. Here the child becomes mobile, right? It widens the sphere of the child's activity. It moves around. Now activities beyond the caregiver and the family, social behavior, and mental abilities are formed. Between the age of 2 to 6, more or less, children are able to move around, are able to talk, are able to express. And certain few words, few sentences, they already start talking. And it's a time that the child is getting prepared for the enrollment in the school. Okay. Now, after the early childhood comes the middle child, which is from the age group of 11 to 13 years. What happens in this age group? A huge growth spurt, right? Everything grows like eyes, hands, small muscle coordination, thinking improves, right? There's a logical memory form, all this 11 to 13 years, right? And then comes the next stage of adolescent, which is a transition from childhood to the adulthood, which is called the puberty. That is the age of 13 to 19, where a lot of changes occur in the child, the adolescent, physically, emotionally, psychologically, sexually, right? In all forms, the child is developed. And the sixth is the early adulthood, that is from 19 to 35 years, where social lives get defined, where the person, the child is able to study, complete the study, get into relationships, right? Prepare for intimate relationship, marriage, and other social relationship widens in this. And the seventh one is the middle adulthood. That is in the age of 35 to 40 years, wherein already they begin thinking about retirement, settling the kids. There's a midlife crisis among adults, right? They become very proficient in problem solving. And the last one is the old age, where it is from 60 years to death. What happens at this stage? A lot of changes also occurs in this stage of life. There is low metabolism, there's post-retirement, dealing with physical fitness, there is illness, there is diagnosis, there is death, and so many things are happening, right? So this is how, in a very brief way, there is a developmental stages, that is the stages of human lifespan, right? The human lifespan that begins with the prenatal, okay, and continues with the infancy, early childhood, middle childhood, adolescence, early adulthood, middle adulthood, and adulthood. This is how a lifespan developmental takes place. Okay, now there are 4 stages which are mentioned as important. That is, each stage of life is based on a previous stage, right? Now, in all these 4 stages, like the prenatal development, early childhood, middle childhood, adolescent time, middle adulthood, all this, right? But every stage is based on the previous. If the child is having some problem in the prenatal stage, it will affect the early child. The early childhood, if she's having the problem, it will affect in the adolescent stage. And similarly, it is linked from one stage to another. The rate of development varies from one stage to another stage, and it is as unique as a person, because every individual is unique. There is no similar and normal stages of process of growth, but it will maybe little variations. The rate of development varies from one stage to another. It also varies from person to person, right? So, some of the guidelines to know what the society expects. Now, every developmental stages also has developmental hazards, right? Developmental hazards are linked. Sometimes the child will have problems, right? Maybe not be able to talk fluently. The child may stammer, right? It may stutter, okay? So these are some of the problems. Or it can also be, maybe there is some mild retardation or moderate retardation, by which the child's IQ level will be a little low, right? Because of which there will be delays in the developmental process. The child which is supposed to walk by 1 year may take 1.5 years. The child that is supposed to be in the school, right, may not be able to articulate, the speech may be delayed. Okay, so they will be looking for the speech therapist. Okay, am I audible now? Am I? Please let me know.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
I'm audible? Yeah. Okay. So now there are some theoretical approaches, right? The major theoretical approaches in the lifespan. I would want you to know that I am taking lifespan development and I am dealing with the first chapter and the second chapter. Okay, we have, I told you, as I told you in the beginning, we have 12 units and we have only 6 classes. So I am trying to finish these 12 units in 6 classes. That means if I take 2 units per session, I will be able to complete in the 12 units in the 6 sessions. Okay. If you have any doubts or something, you can just ask me and then I will say how I will see how I can respond to you. Okay. In the theoretical, yes, ma'am. Somebody said something.
Do we have, yes, ma'am, I'm Madhavi. Good morning. Ma'am,
Good
do we
morning.
have continuous online sessions coming days also, tomorrow also?
Yeah, tomorrow also same time. Okay, this week
Same
we
time.
have. Then again, they will give notification for next week. They will give the
Okay.
dates. The university will give the dates. They are given me today. So I'm taking today and tomorrow.
Oh, today and tomorrow. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. You can continue, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So now we are speaking about the theoretical approaches. When we are talking theoretical approaches, there are 4 major psychologists who are very popular. One is Sigmund Freud, another one is Erik Erikson, and the third one is Jean Piaget, and the fourth one is Kohlberg. Freud talks about the psychosexual development theory. Erik Erikson speaks about the psychosocial theory of development, and Jean Piaget speaks about the cognitive development theory, and Kohlberg speaks about the moral development theory. Okay, we'll take one by one. Right. Now we go to the Sigmund Freud first. Sigmund Freud believed that the adult personality problems were the result of early experiences in life. He believed that we go through 5 stages of psychosexual development, and at each stage we experience pleasure in one part of the body. Freud is an originator of the school of psychoanalysis, which focuses on persons' unconscious drives, motives, and impulses. It divides the mind into conscious, preconscious, and unconscious. Right? The conscious, we know, is the superficial level we are aware of. Right? The preconscious is we are aware, but only to certain extent. Right? The unconscious is we are completely unaware of it. And the awareness level is in the form of goals, wants, dreams, which are all in the underlying subconscious. Right? So Freud also brought us the structure of the person's personality. He divided into 3 components. What are the 3 components? Freud divided that personality into id, ego, and superego. Now, what is id? Id is a biological component that is impulsive, unconscious at birth, right? This id will seek instant gratification. When I'm hungry, I want to eat. When I'm thirsty, I want to drink, right? So there is no delaying of gratification at all. Instantly, we want things, right? And then there is ego. Ego is a reality driven to satisfy our needs, which is rational, organized, right? And this mediates between id and the superego, right? And the superego is a moral alarm of the personality, judging the situation, right? Gets formed in the childhood, that is the morals, values, okay, which is driven by rewards and punishment, okay? So these are the 3 components of personality according to Freud. Now, Freud speaks about also defense mechanisms, and he gives a whole lot of mechanisms that a person uses to protect himself or to protect their ego and cope with their own anxieties, right? Now, what is defense mechanism? It is a psychological mechanism that people use to protect ego and cope with anxiety. It is totally unconscious and it distorts our reality and are adaptable if used sparingly. Now we will focus on the important ones of defense mechanism. The first one is the repression. What is repression? Repression is nothing that we suppressing all our negative thoughts, right? Feelings permanently in the unconscious. That means all that we are thinking negative thing, no, it is suppressed. It goes into the subconscious. So it is called repression. We are repressing those feelings, repressing those thoughts. The next one is the regression. Now, what is regression? Regression is to stooping into a earlier stage of development to deal with unpleasant feelings. Okay, we go lower than that to develop into, to the stooping to an early stage of development to deal with unpleasant feelings. And the third one is projection. Now, what is projection? Projection is attributing our negative feelings to another person, which is commonly used as blaming. People who do not take responsibility most of the time blame others. They blame their problems onto others. So that is called projection. Number 4 is rationalization. What is rationalization? Rationalization is nothing but justifying one's behavior. Whatever behavior I do not want to accept, but I justify it. If somebody pointing out at me and telling that this behavior is not right or this they did not like, then we immediately justify that behavior. This is called rationalizing the behaviors. The number 5 is reaction formation. What is reaction formation? Portraying feelings and behaviors that are opposite, right? So we portray the feelings and behaviors that are on the opposite, right? So we can be feeling very annoyed, very angry from within, but on the surface we want to smile and we want to be very polite. We don't want to show the name. So that is reaction formation. Denial. What is denial? Okay, denial is one form of defense mechanism. Denial is not being able to accept the reality. Many a times, people who are diagnosed first time with some very serious terminal illness, they do not want to accept it because they can't believe that this has happened to me. So they get into the process of denial. They say, no, it is not correct. So let me go and check with another doctor. Let me take another test. Let me take another opinion, right? So all this, okay, you are going by page number. Let me tell you the page number. 1 second.
18, ma'am.
Yeah. I'll tell you because it is in the 1 minute. Phase of development. Actually, I didn't follow the page number.
Ma'am, it's 18, page number 18. Denial.
18, huh? Thank you, ma. Okay. So is the defense mechanism there? Can you see the defense mechanism? You will find it. You will find it.
Yeah.
Can you see the defense mechanism? It will be after, I think, before 18 only, ma.
Ma'am, just now you're telling about denial, right? Not accepting the that point is there.
Yeah, I'm talking about defense mechanism.
Okay.
I'm talking about defense mechanism. Can you find it?
I'm searching, ma'am.
It is on page number 17, ma. Can you see page number 17? The first part, Freud talks about ego, superego and all that. And the last paragraph, Freud talks about concept of defense mechanism. Can you see that? Yes? Okay, very good. So far I have been talking. Did you understand all the defense mechanisms? Right? I have spoken to you about repression, regression, projection, rationalization, reaction formation, denial. Right? I am at denial. And after denial is displacement. What is displacement? Displacement is a defense mechanism that will allow me to divert my negative feelings to something else. Like, for example, if I am angry, right, I do not know how to show anger, so I will go and beat the dog. Or if a husband is angry, he will beat the wife, he will scold the wife. The wife will get angry, she will scold the child. The child will get angry, and the child will go and beat the dog. Right? You see how anger gets displaced. Okay. So that is diverting our negative feelings. The number 8 is a sublimation. What is sublimation? This is also a defense mechanism where you channelize your emotions, your negative emotion, in a socially acceptable manner. Like, suppose there is a breakup. Now you are learning to cope with the breakup. So what do? You start writing poetry. You start doing share shayari, or you start painting, right? Or you start learning a new skill. So what are you doing? In a very positive way, you're dealing with the negative experience that has had in your life, right? So by coping through adopting something new, that is something that you love, something that is coming from within. Okay? So everybody clear till here? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So that is all about defense mechanism. Now we move on to the psychosexual stages of development, which explains the personalities through stages of development. According to Freud, a person's personality gets fixed by the age of 6. Now, according to him, by the age of 6, the child has already formed, like the way the thought processes, the cognitions, everything is already formed. It is called a psychosexual theory because Freud elaborates on the interplay between the psychic energy of sex instinct, that is referred as libido, and the biological process of maturation, affecting psychological characteristics of a person's personality, right? According to him, there are certain areas in our body which gives pleasure when stimulated. They are called the erogenous zones. These zones are different in each period, and when the child doesn't pass the stage, it gets fixated. That is called fixation. Okay. So if you want to look at your textbooks, please go to page number 18. Yeah. So here you have 4 stages which Freud has suggested. One is the oral stage, which is from 0 to 15 years. That is the first stage. The second stage is the anal stage. That is from 1.5 to 3 years. That is the second stage. The third stage is the phallic stage, which is 3 to 6 years, which is the third stage. And the fourth stage, that is the latency, which is from 6 years to puberty. Okay. So let's take each one of these years as to what happens, right? So you look at your book, you'll already get the information here. In the oral stage, what happened? The child seeks gratification, right, with the mouth. That is the erroneous zone, indulging in the process of nipple and thumb sucking, biting, chewing, right? Can you see it? It is on the page number 18, right? In each stage, what the child does is given in a very simple language. Okay. So when the child doesn't go through this age in a very healthy way, what happens? There will be very little gratification when the child grows up because the child gets fixated, right? So too much of indus gratification leads to oral aggressive personalities, and qualities are dominating in it. It could be thumb sucking, nail biting, binge eating, etc. Right? Similarly, in the second stage, that is 1.5 to 3 stage, the child trains to control the bowel and the bladder movements. Right? It seeks pleasure in eliminating waste from through defecating and urinating. Right? Hence, the anus becomes the erroneous zone. The relationship with the parent and the kind of parenting in toilet training determines the fixation at this stage. If characterized by qualities of stubbornness, obsession with tidiness, perfectionism, etc., extremely lenient parenting in toilet training leads to anal expulsive personality characterized in qualities such as untidiness, messy, disorganized, wasteful, careless, reckless, etc. Right? Then move on to the third phallic stage. It is from 3 to 6 years. The stage becomes aware of the bodies and the differences in sexual organs, male and the female. They are filled with wonder and curiosity to explore their bodies, right? And indulge in the process of masturbation to seek pleasure and the erroneous zones in the genital area. Freud mentions about several steps, especially important in the phallic stage when the children deal with which are controversial in nature. Okay. So anyway, you read up a little more on all this so that we are able to complete this unit. Yeah. So there is Oedipus complex, right? Where the boy child in the stage develops sexual feelings for his mother, which is referred as a Oedipal complex, and is angry with the father because he's always with the mother. However, fears that if his father knows these feelings, he might cut his penis, which is dear to him, referred as the castration anxiety, which starts and identifies with his father to resolve this problem. Okay, I moved on to page number 19. Okay, so in this stage, if the fixation happens, it leads to sexual dysfunction, sexual confusion among boys and girls. Then we have the stage number 4, latency stage, right? In this stage, the libido of the child is dormant and gets diverted to school activities. The child engages in forming pure relations, learning to adapt to new places, pursuing hobbies, etc. Right? In the stage, erroneous zone is specifically not mentioned, and the fixation is prior stages gets carried forwarded to this stage. Number 5 stage is the genital stage, that is puberty onwards. The last stage of psychosexual stages of development is the genital stage, which begins at puberty. The individual's libido is channelized in forming mature and sexual relation, marriage and child rearing. Fixation in this stage leads to sexual identity concern, sexual perversion and other sexual issues. Okay. So what are the critical evaluation of psychosexual theories of development? Right? There are many studies that are undertaken to understand the adult personalities and relationships based on Oedipus and Electra complexes. In spite of the striking advantages, there are several criticisms against the theory. Freud's theory has been criticizing for basing this theory on unrepresentative sample, which consisted in of his patient for the lack of empirical evidence. He is also criticized for the theory and given explanation. Okay, so this is about the theory of psychosexual development of Freud. We move on to Erik Erikson's psychosocial theory. That is the page number 20. Now, Erik Erikson formulated the psychosocial theory of development in the 1980s. So according to him, the first stage is birth to 1 year. Now, what happens in this stage? In this stage, he refers the words as trust and mistrust, okay, which you see in the heading, right? If the child at this age, that is the age of birth to 1 year, doesn't experience comfort, security, trust, what happens? The child starts believing that the world is not a safe place. If the child is neglected, is not given things on time, child's needs are not met, child feel doesn't secure, right? So when this kind of things happen, right, it is the result of the negative experiences and the hostile environment for the lack of care, right, or lack of stimulation and abandonment of the infirm to believe that the world is not a good place. It is very difficult for this child to trust anyone. So that is about trust and mistrust. Stage 2 is 1 to 3 years. Now, what is 1 to 3 years? Autonomy versus shame and doubt. What happens in this stage, that is the age of 1 to 3 years, the parent's role is very important. If the parent doesn't give or doesn't allow the child the freedom to explore, to learn, to find, what happens? Children develop doubts and self-esteem. So this stage is very crucial, where the child develops an autonomy, right? An autonomy so that the child is able to do things. The child is able to find things for himself or herself. The child is able to explore. When we don't allow the child to do all this, the child develops shame. It develops self-doubt. It feels that I'm not able to do it, right? So those are the things that comes in the second stage. That is the 1 to 3 years, autonomous versus shame and doubt. Then there is stage number 3 of Erik Erikson. The stage number 3 is the preschool age or early childhood. That is from 3 to 6 years. The heading here is initiative versus guilt. In this stage, the child acquires new skills and takes up responsibility, has a sense of ambition. Moreover, prepares to receive formal education. The concept of morality and understanding and consequences of action develops in this stage. In this process, the child progresses to lead to accomplish goals and develops psychosocial strength of initiative, taking it possible with required stimulation and motivation. Right. So this phase helps a child to develop a proper self-concept or fundamental question of am I good or what I do, right? That child is able to take the initiative. If the child is not allowed to take any initiative and constantly put down, the child develops a kind of a guilt that I am not good, I'm not able to do this, right? And the action, whatever I did, I failed, so I am not really competent or so that is initiative versus guilt. The stage number 4 is the school age or the middle, which is in the age group of 6 to 12 years. And the title here is industry versus inferiority. It is characterized. Now, by this time, 6 to 12, the child is almost in the middle school, right? Formal education. It has attained certain skill. It is going to school regularly, right? And it is learning. It is establishing a sense of pride, a self-confidence, right? And it is able to say, I'm worthy, doing all the developmental tasks, right? So when it is able to do all this, and if it loses the capacity to learn, right, and the master skill which makes him feel inferior, if there is a kind of a negative experience, negativity, it brings in a kind of inferiority complex, right? Child starts comparing herself or himself to that. See, others are better than me, right? I am inferior, they are superior. No, that kind of a feeling. And the stage number 5 is the adolescence, very crucial stage. Adolescence is the growing up stage, a transition stage, which is from the age of 12 to 18. And what happens at this stage? There is a crisis, identity versus role confusion. The child doesn't know whether it has to behave like a child or like an adult because it is in the transition phase. So identity get confused, right? And the child has ability to sustain loyalty, role confusion, doesn't know what to do, right? Who am I, right? All that. The child is in the process of developing one's identity. And if in a healthy environment, the child will develop a proper identity. And if the parents are smart, they're allowing the child to have a smooth transition in their adolescent phase because it's a very vulnerable stage for the child. Now, stage number 6, according to Erik Erikson, is the early adulthood, which is comprised in the age group of 19 to 40 years. That is intimacy versus isolation. What happens in this stage? The young adults engage in meaningful and lasting relationships based on trust, seeks companionship, love, care. They also explore their sexuality to understand themselves fully. The individuals who successfully form loving relationships tend to experience intimacy and gain the virtue of love. The fundamental question asked in the child is, can I completely love somebody? Developmental tasks include love, relationships, marriage, childbearing, gainful employment, and others who fail to experience this bond encounter isolation, right? When a child is not able to bond, not able to form healthy relationships, not able to, enjoy this phase, then it gets into isolation, which translates into emotional suffering as a result of troubled relationships. Okay. Now we move on to the stage number 7. 7 is the middle adulthood, which is from the age group of 40 to 65 years. What is the title here? Generativity versus stagnation. In this stage, the focus is on career, family, raising children, right? From 40 to 65, the individual strikes a balance, completes all the responsibility, fulfills everything. At 60, 65, the individual starts thinking, can I produce something of value in my life? Generativity is the psychosocial strength experience when one feels that life is being productive. The virtue of care, which is the ability to defend, to commit to the stage of development. Okay. So this is the time there's work-life balance, there's career development, there's a midlife crisis felt by the individuals who experiences stagnation. People who are progressive, who have constantly been learning, they move very smoothly in this phase. But those who are not been able to move, they stagnate, they stop learning, right? And that is where the stagnation occurs in this phase of life. And the last phase, according to the Erik Erikson, is the late adulthood, which is 65 years and up to death. So what is it here? Ego, integrity versus despair. The last stage of Erik Erikson's psychosocial theory deals with individual reviewing the life and perceiving the journey as a whole. The stages deal with how well individuals integrate their life experiences and make meaningful interpretation after the retirement life begins. A person experiences ego, integrity when he or she feels content and fulfilled with self, others, and the virtue of wisdom, which is being detached at active concern. Developmental tasks involved in this stage are dealing with death of close ones, raising grandchildren, taking up new roles to contribute to society, pursuing hobbies, developing perspective towards death. Despair is experienced by individuals who have sense of regret and preoccupied with the past. Okay, so those who develop all the skills are moving towards ego and integrity, building themselves. Those are not able to do it. They have regrets of the past. They've tried living in the past. And so they feel a sense of despair. So these are the 8 stages of developmental stages according to the formulated by theory of developmental, social theory of development by Erik Erikson. Critical evaluation. Let's look at the critical evaluation, page number 22. He is criticized for the lack of consideration for individual differences and for giving the importance to childhood science, thereby ignoring the last 3 stages of adulthood. So this is the kind of a criticism Erik Erikson has received. Okay, we move to the next. That is Piaget's, Jean Piaget's cognitive development. Okay, so Jean Piaget's cognitive is considered, he combined influence of biological motivation and environmental interaction basis of cognitive development. When we are talking about Jean Piaget, we need to remember, speaks about the important concept of, one is the schemas. What is the schemas? They are mental representation of the world, like how a brain forms and how the schemas to organize, categorize information to make sense to the world. Like how we perceive, right? Our mental processes, the schema, that is that which we have perceived, which we have experienced, which has come for a long period of time, forms a schema, a lens through which we see the world, which we make a representation of the world and everything around us, right? Another, it is a very important for cognitive development. Another important thing about Jean Piaget is the assimilation and accommodation stages of development. So you refer to page number, what is the page number?
23, ma'am.
Jean Piaget. Yeah, very good. So it is page number 23. So you can see is already mentioned about the schemas in the 3rd paragraph, and how a schema of a dog, so is given examples also in a very simple way. It will be easy to understand. So when we think about something that we have already seen, maybe a dog or a cat, immediately we get the representation of the mental image. That is what is the schema. Assimilation and accommodation is to expand further on the schemas. The way individual acquires and maintains the schemas depends on 2 complementary processes. That is, the assimilation takes place when new information in the environment is consisting with the existing schema. Accommodation is when new information needs to make changes in the existing schema. For example, when a child learns about apple and starts calling all round shaped fruit like plum, peach, also a apple, then it is an assimilation. Whereas if the child understands that all round shaped fruits on red are apples, then it is not accommodation. Equilibrium is maintained through assimilation, whereas accommodation creates disequilibrium. Okay. So Piaget has formulated 4 stages in cognitive development across lifespan individuals. He referred them as invariant stages, as he believes that everybody develops cognitively according to the stages given in order, okay, without skipping or going back. The following are the different stages. You can see it on page 24. Yeah. So what is the stage 1? The stage 1 is a sensory motor stage. That is 0 to 2 years. Children in this stage perceive and explore their environment through senses and motor abilities. They experiment with different ways of responding to the stimuli and learn from their behaviors. The common behaviors in the infant engage in sucking, grasping, rooting. Object permanence, which is understanding the objects when hidden, do coexist in the world. from end of this. Okay. So he's given a whole, please read this up to yourself from 1 to 6, which is given simple reflex birth, primary circular reaction, secondary character circular reactions, coordination, secondary. All this happens in the stage 1. That is the sensory motor stage. The stage 2 is the pre-operational stage. What is the pre-operational stage? That which happens in the age of 2 to 7 years. What happens in the 2 to 7 years? Language development among children, which helps them to understand and relate to the world better. Egocentrism, the inability to take another person's perspective and thinking only about oneself in every situation is one of the major characteristics of this age. Children engage to make believe, play, also pretend. Okay, so read up all this that comprises in the pre-operational stage in the age group of 2 to 7, right? Then we have the stage 3, which is the concrete operational stage. What happens in the concrete operational stage, which is from the age group of 7 to 11, right? So a lot of logical question, comprehending, rationality, children's ability to question, understand, right? All this, right? The concept of transitory is also gained in the stage, which is to arrange children in the stage no longer show animism, however, not capable of abstract thinking. And the stage 4 is the formal operational stage, which is 12 years to adulthood. This is the last stage of Piaget's cognitive development theory, right? Piaget is focusing only on cognition, okay, where children are capable of adult thinking, perceiving the world in a rational, hypothetical, imaginative, and abstract manner. They're capable of making inferences, right? And they gain emotional maturity to some extent and begin to indulge in the process of self-reflection and awareness. What is the critical evaluation here? Right? He is criticized for the age range of the order of stages, which makes it rigid. His theory was also criticized for not considering the role of cultural, social interaction, the role of memory and attention in formulating the theory. Then the last person, that is the Kohlberg's theory of moral development. Lawrence Kohlberg formulated the theory of moral development based on Piaget concepts of morality. He concluded that morality differs from age and from person to person by posing moral dilemmas to people of different ages based on his theory and responses obtained from the interviews. Okay, so let's look at the different stages that he has formulated. The first stage, the pre-conventional stage, right? The pre-conventional stages are concerned with morality attached to the consequences of actions or personal needs. Mostly children exhibit this kind of morality. However, some adults also exhibit. So this is pre-conventional stage. In this pre-conventional stage, there are two important aspects, stage 1 and stage 2. What is the stage 1? Punishment, obedience, and orientation. In this stage, the person bases his action by assessing the consequences of that action in terms of whether he or she should be rewarded for it or would be punished. The person tends to obey authority figures who set the rules, and individuals may consider behavior not to be wrong. Yeah, the harsher the punishment, the greater is the act perceived as bad, which leads to avoidance to greater. So the stage 1 is punishment and obedience orientation, right? The stage 2 is instrumental hedonism. What is hedonism? Whatever satisfies the needs of others, right? This is the second stage of moral development, where the person engages in behavior and gives personal benefit to him or her. They base the morality on the question, what will I get from this, right? So they are a personal gain of their interest and show less concern for others. The second major stage is the conventional stage. In this stage, others' views are given importance, which they extend to authorities and societies. Moral reasoning is based on catering to expectations, rules, and laws. Mostly adolescents and adults exhibit this kind of moral reasoning. Then we move on to stage 3. Stage 3 is the good boy or a good girl morality. This stage, people are concerned about societal expectations and they behave in a way that seeks approval from people. Just like the name suggests, they look for appreciation, they look for validation. Where they do, the behavior is judged on the intention on this stage. Fulfilling social obligation and doing justice to social roles with the intention to gain acceptance from social world. That is acceptance and validation. Okay. So these are the 4 things that come under the pre-conventional stage. These are the 2 things that come under the conventional stage. That is the 3rd and the 4th. Last one is the post-conventional stage. In this stage, the prominent feature is the individuality and the dependence on authorities, and the people get reduced. And the focus is always on what feels morally right to an individual based on internal conscience, which is broad and universal in nature. Right? Under this, there are stage 5 and stage 6. They are morality of contract, that is individual rights, and democratically accepted law. In this stage, the person believes that the laws and the rules of society should be followed if they are in public interest and for the welfare of the members. If there are rules which are discriminatory or prejudiced in nature, a person thinks of alternative ways of dealing with such situation and voice out his opinion against law. Stage 6 is the morality of individual principle of conscience. This is the last stage in the theory of moral development, and also the highest stage of moral reasoning, and is considered idealistic and abstract in nature, as very few people reach the stage in reality. In this, a person follows what he or she thinks right from his perspective, which is aligned with the universal perspective of right and wrong, and not based on legal, societal, and personal rules. Here we have plenty of examples of people who possess this moral reasoning, like Martin Luther King Jr. or Mahatma Gandhi. We can still think about many other people. Yeah. What is the critical evaluation of Kohlberg's theory? That Kohlberg provides useful framework in understanding the development of moral reasoning. Moral dilemmas given by Kohlberg can be applicable in many settings to informal reasoning to individuals. There is evidence of cross-cultural data, the studies done on Kohlberg's theory, which adds to validity of theory. Kohlberg was criticized for the last stage being very abstract and idealistic and theoretical in nature. There was also criticism of how individuals did regress in their moral reasoning, which was not dealt in his theory. Paul Gillian has criticized his theory for being androcentric, as he considered mostly only male participants in his study. The dilemma between moral thinking and moral acting hasn't been addressed in this theory, which is one of the biggest criticism of this theory. So with this, we close also the unit 2. So today we completed unit 1 and unit 2. Since you are already in the 5th sem, you will have an idea about all the summary that is already given in your textbook. Please go through it, check your progress, try to answer the question and answers that are there, read up the glossary, and then you have everything that is required for it. Is very simple and easy understanding. You have even model answers here, even in page number 28, right? When you are checking your progress, please go through all that, right? And it will become easy for you, right? On page 30, there is model question papers that is given, right? Try and solve all this. Since it is a 1-hour class and with the constraint of the time, I'm planned to finish 2 units per session. So as of now, 2 units are covered. And tomorrow I will continue with the 3rd and the 4th unit. Do you have any questions on this? Anybody wants to say anything?
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Nisi.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I have a doubt regarding my study material.
What happened?
Which are to be delivered to the home address, but there is no response from the study center. So, what would be the process to get the books, ma'am?
Okay, that I have to only check with the university because I have no control of that. Yeah, why don't you check with the university people? Did you check with them, with the administration?
No, ma'am.
Hello?
No, ma'am.
You see, please check with them. And I'll also just give my opinion to the concerned person and check. So none of you have received your 50 sem material?
No, ma'am, I received the
Knowledge, ma'am, users.
Okay, just
We
maybe
went to
one or two
university.
percent. Yeah, check with this one. Check with the administration, check with the university and ask them why it is not delivered. Or maybe it is delivered and it is not reached your home. Check with your post office. Okay? Yeah. Anything else you want to ask me?
Okay, ma'am.
You have already finished first year, second year, third year, fourth year. Now you are in the fifth semester. So you got used to learning this way, right? Any problem? Okay, so if there is nothing for you to, ask, I would suggest that you please go through the material, which is very nicely done, and read up everything. Keep
Ma'am,
checking.
can I ask something?
Yeah, tell me.
Ma'am, whole break is moral development and psychosocial theory.
Yeah. How to get the books? That contact the administration, ma. How to connect to
No,
the
ma'am, I'm
university?
asking
Go to
about
the
the
website.
cognitive,
You go to the website.
development theory.
Huh? Sorry.
I'm asking about the just now you teach us unit 2, right? Cognitive development theory and moral development theory and
Yes.
psychosocial
Yes.
theory.
Yeah.
May I know that the 3-point names
The lifespan development. Jean Piaget is the cognitive development theory. Okay. Erik Erikson, you know, no? Already Freud, you know. Kohlberg is for moral development. Moral development theory. Theory of moral development.
Okay. And psychosocial theory is a?
Yeah, that is Freud. Sigmund Freud.
Freud.
Yeah, Freud.
Okay.
Sigmund Freud. So today, actually, basically what I did, unit 1 and unit 2, I'll tell you what I did. Just give you a brief summary of what I did, right? See, first I explained to you on growth and development and maturation, right? I gave an introduction on what growth is, what development is, right? And then I spoke about the principles of development. There are 12 principles of development, which I highlighted in detail, all the developmental principles, okay? 12 developmental principles. Then I spoke to you about the stages of human lifespan. That is the major human lifespan development. That is the prenatal stage, right? And then the infancy stage, the early childhood stage, the middle childhood, the adolescent, and the early adulthood, right? After that, I spoke to you about the brief introduction to developmental tasks, like, what are the hazards, right, in developmental stages. Now, what happens what is the risk, like the vulnerability when children growing up, like what the kind of developmental delays they can encounter or retardation and all that. And then I spoke to you about the theoretical approaches to development, right? This is lifespan development book. Okay, so theoretical approaches, I spoke about the theoretical approach of Sigmund Freud in terms of psychosexual development theory. That is the first one, right? Second one is the Erik Erikson psychosocial theory. The third one is the Jean Piaget cognitive development theory. And the last one is the Kohlberg's model development theory. I explained each of it, except this Freud is a little more, because Freud spoke about ego, superego. Freud spoke about defense mechanisms, right? And then he spoke about the conscious, unconscious, and conscious and the unconscious and the pre-conscious. And then the 5 stages of development, right? The oral stage, the anal stage, the phallic stage, and the latency stage. This is all given in your books, right? Then I spoke to you all about the 8 stages of Erik Erikson's psychosocial theory of development. So I explained to you each stage. from birth to 1 year, 1 to 3 years, 3 to 6, 6 to 12, 12 to 19, right? Middle adulthood. And then I spoke to you about the developmental theory of Jean Piaget, right? Where I explained all about the Jean Piaget's theory of development, how he speaks about schemas, assimilation, and then adaptation, accommodation, right? And then the last thing I spoke to you about the Kohlberg's moral development theory. Okay, so these are the first 2 units. Everything is in your notes, very beautifully done and very clearly. If you look at the summary, you can check your progress. There is a page 20. In that, you get all the defense mechanism in detail, ego, superego in detail, right? Model answers are given, right? Then Erikson theory is given, assimilation, accommodation given, and then all the different stages of adaptability and Kohlberg's, okay? All this is given. So you please go through all this. I'm sure you'll be, if you read up 2-3 times, you'll be able to understand little more clearly, okay? So tomorrow I will do unit 3 and unit 4. So like that, whenever we are having these weekend classes, for each class, I will try and cover 2 units. Okay? Yes, and Nisi, please contact the university. Go to the website, check their numbers. You have to use the contact numbers, call them and find out, or if possible, visit them and check with them that tell them that you have not received your booklet and take it. Yeah? Are you with me?
Okay.
Yeah, please
Yes,
do that.
ma'am.
It's very important to have the books, notes, because you'll be able to, follow your syllabus accordingly. Otherwise, you just study as you like, then you won't know what, because here very clearly they are given you the kind of model question papers that they would give, all that. Okay, so better to go by the book.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Anything else? All fine. How many are in your batch? No idea. How many students are in this batch? 3rd years? Only 3 of you all. 2 of you.
No idea, ma'am.
But in your class, how many were there when you started?
No idea about the students, ma'am, because they are from different branches, BCom, BSc, and BA also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in practical classes also, many of them were attending, but they were from different streams, so we couldn't analyze how many students are there in the class.
Okay, fine. So then I close this here, and happy weekend to you. I will see you again, maybe tomorrow.
Ma'am, the thing is, many of them are not aware of the classes also, because no one is given a specified message. Only the students who are going through the university links regularly are having the information.
Okay.
So many of them are done with the classes. They are asking about when are the classes going on.
Oh my God. Okay.
So no proper information from the university of anything, ma'am. Like practical classes also, many of them have not attended.
Okay.
And because they did not have any information, and the university people are telling to just go through the university site for information. Yes.
Okay. Anyway, I'll just forward this, whatever queries you have to the concern, because I'm not the authority. I can just, forward that this is the thing that has come in. One is about the books, another one is about the information. And how did you come to know about today's class?
I'm in the psychology group, ma'am. So I came to know about the link, or else I would not get the link from site also. I was keep on searching from yesterday.
Okay.
Today somebody else posted it in the group, so I joined, ma'am.
Okay, good. So please inform the others also in case, because I don't know what is the mechanism and how they do this. For me also, it's first time, and I was given the link yesterday, so I just today. Okay. So anyway, all the very best to you all, and I shall continue with the unit 3 and 4 tomorrow. Okay, when the link is sent. Thank you and God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am.